Thank you, Mayor Henry. Good to see you all here. To start with, this is the strategic plan implementation plan update that I want to kind of go over. We'll start, Karen, with a little bit of background on what got us to where we are today. So to start with, if you remember back on June 14th of 2021, you all, Mayor and Council, adopted 8 strategic goals as part of our strategic plan for the city. The goals were adopted after numerous public engagement meetings, meetings with mayor and council, meeting with staff, and work session. And the 8 goals are listed up here for your reminder. The goal number 1 is economic vitality and sustainability, safe and secure community, exceptional quality of life, intentional and balanced community redevelopment / growth, dynamic transportation network that optimizes mobility, outstanding city services, good governance through organizational excellence, and then outstanding collaboration, community engagement, and customer service. And those are the 8 goals that you all have adopted. So now that those 8 goals are adopted, your management team has taken on the responsibility for crafting a 5-year implementation plan. That implementation plan is to meet the 8 goals successfully. That's what each one of the tasks are made to do. The strategic plan is for the next 5 years of this city's future. Your management team has considered detailed actions for each objective that you all adopted, anticipated milestones, responsibilities, and performance metrics for each objective and for each goal. The team is going to monitor and review that strategic plan, and we're going to monitor and review that implementation plan every 6 months during what should be a very dynamic life cycle of the strategic plan. So where we're at right now over the last 3 months, the months of July, August, and September, your management team has met to discuss and formulate key implementation tasks. And those tasks are to successfully complete each key objective. We've met once every 2 weeks for the last 3 months in working on these key tasks. The key objectives, like the strategic goals, were developed during the mayor and council and the staff work sessions, and those were based on community engagement meetings that were held at the very beginning of this process. The key objectives, like the strategic goals, were adopted by mayor and council. These goals and objectives have not changed, and they will not change without you all taking the action. The goals and the objectives. The focus of your management team is to build key implementation tasks to meet the adopted key objectives that satisfactorily will ultimately meet the strategic goals with success. Our focus is to make tasks to meet objectives to meet goals. You tell us where you want us to get you, we're going to get you there. And it's through this work over the last 3 months that I want to give you an update on. So there were 7,000 comments, roughly, that were received during the public engagement process. That came from 2,000, roughly, different participants in open house events, in local, more intimate events, and even individual survey events along the way. These are the community engagement comments that created the strategic goals, and those comments created those key objectives. And those have been adopted by you all, and I'm going to talk more about those in the next few slides. So here's this, a one-page snapshot of what we've been doing over the last, almost 2 years now. It's the strategic plan, and it's the implementation plan. So you'll see on here the 8 adopted goals that I talked about a minute ago. You see the number of adopted key objectives. Remember, both of those are adopted key objectives. And then you'll see another column that is your management team's key tasks. So you got some backup documents for this particular meeting. One of them is the actual spreadsheet, and there is everything is on this. The goals are on here. By the way, when you'll see these goals listed, no particular order. It just so happens that we started with one and we worked through it and everything is working out that way, but there's no particular order. On this spreadsheet, for each strategic goal that's listed, you'll see a column that is key objectives. Those are the key objectives that you all adopted along with that goal. There's another column on there that's a key implementation task. So each task is beside or assigned to a particular objective. So you can actually see where they tie together. The next column is the department. That's the department that owns that particular task. The next column is the lead responsibility. That's a position that is responsible for that. And then others involved. And the others involved is important because that gives you a better understanding. When we're taking a strategic plan, it is citywide. There is so many others involved than just who the lead responsibility person is. Our challenge was, I can't just stick this up on the screen and start talking. That wouldn't do anybody any good to try to go through this. So you have another handout or another document. So this one's a little bit easier to follow along. This particular document is broken out by goal. So the first one, the economic vitality and sustainability, it's going to have that goal statement that I'm going to talk about in a minute for each goal that kind of describes what that goal is, what the intent was. That was stuff that we worked through going through the work sessions that we did. There's a common theme. I'll get to those in just a minute. Those are the comments that were from the citizens. The key objectives, that's what you all adopted. And for every goal is the key implementation tasks written out. Now, it's a little easier to see, a little easier to go through this. The key tasks are not tied to the key objectives of this particular sheet, but they are on this sheet. It's just a lot harder to follow. So what I'm going to be doing is going through this information for you today so that you can kind of see where we're at to move forward with the implementation plan. I want to take just a minute, though. I've got to tell you how impressed and how excited I have been about leading this project so far. Not so far. Leading this project, period. The team members, and they're here, have been so respectful. You've been so engaged. You've been so responsive. You've had a lot of homework, and you've done your homework. You genuinely cared about this product that we're bringing to you tonight to let you see, even though it's not done yet, where we're at so far. Dan Skowski, Sharon Izzo, Lenore Bromberg, Chief Conroy, Chief Panino, Jeff Leatherman, Muhammad Raff, Ryan Luckett, Marley Press, David Davidson, Jim Harner, Julie Breckville, Patrick Baber, Deputy Chief Rivard, and Michael Petty. Those guys have been rock stars in all of this, in all of the meetings, making sure that we're providing a quality product. And I'm not done yet because I got to thank Karen Swinehart. Karen, she's been incredible at organizing these meetings, at putting together the agendas and taking this document to a final document where we can actually look at it and understand what's going on. But it really has been an amazing process so far, and I would be remiss to not talk about that before we go on. So the next screen, I'm going to start getting into a little bit how we're going to look at each one of the goals. So the first adopted goal, and again, this is in no particular order, is economic vitality and sustainability. The goal statement is that intent to pursue priorities that reinforce the importance of economic health to our overall quality of life and demonstrate the city's strong support for existing and future businesses. The city's economic growth and vitality strategies will promote sustainability, innovation, competitiveness, and entrepreneurship. That is as adopted. That is what you all, staff, what we took at those work sessions and adopted based on the comments. On the next screen, this screen, I'm going to talk a little bit about the comments because we wanted to be sure that we had our minds wrapped around what we need to be doing with the strategic plan. So there's a common theme of this goal, and this common theme is drafted by your management team. It's after our management team broke up into groups of 2, and each one of them were assigned a goal. In each one of those goals, we had the comments broken out. Our consultant helped us with that, broke out those comments, and those teams of 2 reviewed every single comment for that goal. And when they got done, I asked them what the thoughts were for those comments. What did you take out of those comments? And that's what we have here tonight. And I think this is very important. The review is just to be sure that we have that solid sense of the citizen comments. So for economic vitality and sustainability, about half of the comments expressed optimism about the balance of commercial and residential development, while the other half expressed concern about the amount of high-density residential development and the lack of commercial development, especially on the east side of Roswell. In addition, comments expressed the need for incentives to address the lack of diversity in housing, tax base, and business type. So those comments, we boiled down into a kind of a theme, but that's where we got the goals, and that's where we got the objectives that we adopted. So there's that. So the comments, though, keep in mind, they don't dictate the key implementation tasks. So the comments dictated what the objectives were, and the comments dictated what the goals were. The theme we wanted to have in our mind as we did the tasks, but the tasks are how we're going to successfully complete those objectives. And if we can successfully complete those objectives, we're going to successfully complete those goals. It's a process. We do this to achieve this, which will ultimately achieve this goal. So that's what we've been working through for the last several months to take us through the next 5 years. So out of the 7,000 or so comments, 11.8% of the comments were tied to economic vitality and sustainability. The key objectives I've put up here, they're also on your other sheets. You can, go ahead, Councilman G.
On the 7,000 comments, were there 7,000 unique comments from 7,000 different people?
They were 7,000 unique comments from 2,000 unique people. So the key objectives I'm putting back up here just so that you can just see those. For economic vitality and sustainability, we had 8. So there's 8 key objectives that were adopted for economic vitality and sustainability. And out of that, your management team has identified 19 key implementation tasks. Now, those are in your sheet. There's 207 tasks total. So I'm not listing all of those out. It would be a waste of time to flash them up on the screen and go on to the next screen. But you have all of those in your backup documentation. So for this particular goal, 19 tasks were identified by your management team so that we can successfully complete those objectives, which will ultimately help us to be successful with that goal. The next one is a safe and secure community. The goal statement is pursue policies, models, and initiatives that support sustainable, high-quality police and fire services, consistent with industry best practices for public safety, with the intent to proactively safeguard city residents, visitors, businesses, and property. So we have the theme based on our review of this adopted goal, and the theme is some residents are optimistic with the idea of new leadership in the police department and generally feel like Roswell is a safe community. Others expect to see a lower crime rate, action taken to lower crime and drug use, more police presence, and better management of the police department. There's also a concern that Roswell is playing catch-up to surrounding communities. Now, these are overall comments that were given for this particular goal. Only 2.3% of the 7,000 unique comments were towards safe and secure community. And I do want to make a note here that a lot of these comments were done during our time of transition from one chief to another chief and some command positions to other command positions, and I think some of these comments have already been dealt with. So we're already moving forward on some of these items. So the safe and secure environment or community ended up with 9 adopted key objectives, and you can see those up on the screen now. And then with those 9, we ended up with 23 key implementation tasks were identified by your management team and are listed on either one of the sheets, either on the spreadsheet, although it's a little hard to see, or on the PDF, which is easier to take a look at. But there's 23 key implementation tasks that go along with safe and secure community over the next 5 years. The next goal, adopted strategic goal, is exceptional quality of life. The goal statement is deliver exceptional community facilities, programs, events, partnerships, parks, and trails which promote community vitality and exceptional livability, thereby creating a sense of belonging for all residents, businesses, and visitors. That was the goal that was developed, and that was the statement that describes that goal. So for the common theme for this adopted goal, says Roswell is a historic city with a strong sense of community, a vibrant downtown, good schools, and plenty of natural amenities and green space. But there's also a concern of overdevelopment, a lack of diverse and affordable housing, preserving that green space, and the ability to retain the small town feel. So as you can see in each one of these themes, there really is a wide variety of what people are looking at when some see some of the things and they like them. And that may be why there's 7,000 comments for 2,000 people. They may have taken both and said, you know, I really like this, this, and this, but I'm really, really concerned about this. But we wanted the themes to show that, which is why we reviewed all of them in groups so that we could come back with a good theme. So out of the 7,000 comments, 27.6% talked about exceptional quality of life. There was a lot of interest on this particular goal and a lot of comments about that particular goal. There's a total of 10 adopted key objectives for this particular goal. There's 7 that are on this sheet, and then on the next screen is 8, 9, and 10. So there was a total of 10 that you all adopted in the process, and then out of those 10, your management team ended up identifying 41 key implementation tasks, things that we need to be doing to successfully complete those key objectives that will successfully get us to an exceptional quality of life over the next 5 years. The next adopted strategic goal is intentional balanced community redevelopment / growth. And the goal statement or the description of that goal was adopt and implement policies, strategic plans, and master plans that address intentional and balanced initiatives consistent with the comprehensive plan, with previously adopted plans, in conjunction with regional plans and identified best practices in municipal development and planning. So that's how we explain what International Balanced Community Redevelopment and Growth was when you adopted that. So there's some common themes that came along with International Balanced Community Redevelopment and Growth, and your management team put this one together. It says the comments reflected considerable disagreement and some cite divisiveness about the vision or meaning of balanced community redevelopment / growth. Comments reflect concerns about a lack of transparency regarding developments, increase in high-density residential development, and the sense that there is too much development too fast. Additionally, the feeling that these concerns may have an adverse impact on the redevelopment of empty shopping centers, traffic congestion, parking, and in the city's tree canopy. That's what we understood coming from out of those concerns, and because of that, you all adopted goals and objectives because of those comments. The comments for intentional balanced community redevelopment and growth was 25.5%. So there was a pretty good interest on this particular one. As you're well aware, we hear that quite often. So out of those, there were 7 adopted key objectives that came out of those comments that were listed of the 25%. And you can see those 7 adopted strategic key objectives that are up there right now. And then out of those, your management team has identified 19 key implementation tasks to successfully accomplish the key objectives of this strategic goal over the next 5 years. The next goal that I want to look at is the adopted strategic goal of dynamic transportation network that optimizes mobility. The goal statement that describes this goal is to provide a people-focused, innovative, multimodal transportation system that is compatible with regional plans based on industry best practices and standards that work efficiently and safely while being accessible, reliable, and constructed with priority to our community, our neighborhoods, and the sensitivity to the environment. That's what that goal means when we look at the description of it. Here's a common theme that your management team put together for this adopted goal. Comments reflect optimism with regard to proximity to Atlanta, the river and parks, and mobility for bicycles and pedestrians. General concerns include seeking relief from traffic, congestion, and expanding the bicycle and pedestrian networks. So out of this one, out of the 7,000 comments for dynamic transportation network that optimizes mobility, only 14.6% of the comments were for this one. So that was a little bit lower than what some of the other ones were, and yet, we hear those. Maybe they're a little louder than some of the other ones, but it was 14.6% of all of the comments. So with that, we have 10 adopted key objectives for the dynamic transportation network, and here was 6 of them that you adopted. And then on the next screen is the other 4. And these are the objectives that you want your management team to successfully complete. So out of our meetings, your management team has identified 39 key implementation tasks to successfully accomplish those key objectives that will successfully accomplish this strategic goal over the next 5 years. 39 of them for transportation. The next goal that we looked at was outstanding city services. Again, these are not in any particular order whatsoever. But this adopted strategic goal statement is this: pursue initiatives, investments, strategies, practices, and policies that ensure delivery of exceptional city services in direct support of our residents, our organization, our businesses, and our community partners. And that was outstanding city services. The comment or the theme of the comments for this adopted goal is this: the comments reflected optimism over Roswell's financial stability, employees, facilities, and resources. We looked at it, and that's the theme that came from it, but there was only 0.4%. So not a whole lot of comments in regards to outstanding city services, but 0.4% of all of the comments. So the key objectives for outstanding city services, there were 16 that you all adopted, and there's 8 on this page that you can see, and in your handouts, by the way. And then on the next page is 9 through 16, so that there was a lot of key objectives that were adopted for this one. And out of that, we came up again with about 36 key implementation tasks from your management team that is going to help us to successfully accomplish those key objectives that are adopted, which will ultimately help us be successful with that strategic goal of outstanding city services. The next goal that we looked at is good governance through organizational excellence. That's the adopted goal. The goal statement to describe that goal was to provide nimble and responsive services to residential and business partners with fair, honest, and open governance through collaboration, innovation, and adherence to best practices. So that's the intent of the goal of good governance through organizational excellence. The next screen, I want to look at the community engagement comments for this adopted goal, and the theme is this. Responses were primarily focused on elected officials with optimism, reflecting hope for effective leadership from mayor and council, and for a focus on thinking and planning for the future. Concerns primarily centered on a perceived division among mayor and council, as well as concerns about lack of progress and planning or vision in Roswell, and a concern that Roswell is being left behind other North Fulton cities. This is another one of those that was kind of before we got going where they started talking about concerns about a vision, because that's exactly what we're doing right now. So some of these are kind of taking care of themselves as we're moving forward, and I would say that we're already addressing that particular one. But again, when you look at this common theme, out of all of the 7,000 comments, 4.1% were on good governance through organizational excellence, so not a whole lot of comments regarding that one. So there were 5 adopted key objectives, and you can see those 5 that are on the screen right now for good governance through organizational excellence. And out of those 5 key objectives, your management team has identified 11 key implementation tasks to successfully accomplish those key objectives that will successfully accomplish this strategic goal over the next 5 years. And those are all listed out in your other documents. So the next goal is outstanding collaboration, community engagement, and customer service. The goal statement that describes this goal is to promote outstanding collaboration, community engagement, customer service, and communication at all levels among city government and with our community partners in an open and consistent manner based on adopted policies and best practices. That was the goal in the goal statement that was adopted by mayor and council in this strategic plan. And we can look at those common themes now for the community engagement portion of this adopted goal. And the comment theme is this: residents are excited that there is more community involvement and engagement. For example, many of them talked about the Together Roswell process that we were doing and the events that were held. However, there is a perceived lack of transparency and poor communication regarding some projects, as well as an overall lack of diversity and inclusiveness. That one did not give a lot of details, but we felt like that was important for this particular theme. Out of all of the comments that were given, 7.1% of the comments went towards outstanding collaboration, community engagement, and customer service. So there were 9 adopted key objectives that you all adopted with our strategic plan. There's 7 of them on this first screen that you can see there, and then 2 of them, 8 and 9, are on the next screen. Those are all adopted and do not change. So your management team identified 19 key implementation tasks to successfully accomplish the key objectives in this strategic goal over the next 5 years. So I know that's a lot of information to be looking at. When we talk about 74 key objectives, that's a lot of objectives over the next 5 years, because each one of those is an individual objective that needs to be met. Out of those 74 objectives, we're talking about 207 key tasks. Over the next 5 years, that's 207 individual tasks that have to be completed so that we can assure ourselves that we're meeting those 74 objectives, which will ultimately get us to those key adopted goals for the strategic plan over the next 5 years. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of thought that's put into this plan so far. But look, we've still got work to do, and we know that. Over the next 3 months, which is going to be October, November, and December, your management team is going to be working on several things. One of them is developing performance metrics to measure our success to the key implementation tasks. How are we going to know that we got these tasks done? We're going to define that. We're going to be writing down what those metrics are, what it means when we have a task written out, what it means that we successfully completed that. We want to know that, because if the task isn't completed, the objective isn't completed. And if the objective isn't completed, the goal isn't completed. That's the process for this strategic plan. So we will be developing that over the next 3 months so that we can measure where we're at with our key tasks. We'll also be developing a strategic 5-year timeline for the key implementation tasks. I say a strategic timeline because we haven't gotten there yet. We're going to be looking at these. We have an idea of what year we're going to be doing different things, because some things have to have this done before we can have this done. Some things need other things done first, but we have not taken the approach to look at all of that strategically yet. We just haven't had, there's a lot of data here. So this update is on this first part. The metrics are coming, and the strategic timeline is coming of when your management team sees it's best to get these done. And then the third thing that we're going to be developing is an estimated annual financial commitment that would be needed to complete the key implementation tasks successfully over the next 5 years. 207 tasks. It's going to cost us some money. Now, a lot of that money is operational money that we're doing anyway. It's just going to be going into these tasks. But I would tell you there's new tasks. There's new money that we're going to have. So as a part of this process, not a part of this process, along with this process, Ryan is leading us through priority-based budgeting. That is a long-term solution to some of our financial challenges, whether it's too much expenses or not enough revenues. These two things are going to go hand in hand. So we know over the next 5 years, we're going to need funding for some of these tasks. You're asking, where's that funding come from? I don't know, but we're working on it. We're working on it through priority-based budgeting. Data is going to take us to where we need to be so that we can ultimately be strategic. Is it new money? It might be. Is it money that we can reappropriate from somewhere else? Programs that don't need to be done anymore? Maybe so. We don't know what that is yet. We haven't looked at it, but we're going to. We're not done yet. So we're halfway through this process right now, and out of that, we've come up with 207 tasks that we know need to be done. I'm very confident this team can take another 3 months and come up with a timeline and come up with some estimated costs for the funding that we still need. We plan to be back before you again in December. I'll talk with the mayor. If she's amenable, we have a December 13th meeting. We might could do another work session then as a final one. We'll have to look at the calendar and see how that goes. But we'd like to come back with in a final work session to review all of the information that has the strategic timeline, that has the strategic estimate of the dollar amounts, and let you see what those performance metrics are so that you know and we know what it's going to take to be successful on this. And then with all of that said, we're looking for a formal kickoff for January 1st, well, 2nd. We probably won't kick it off on the 1st. On January 2nd, we're looking for that kickoff to move this forward, which is just where we need to be coming into a new budget year with priority-based budgeting and any requests that we have for year one. So I think we're on task. I think we're on time. Everybody's here if you have any questions on anything. I know we're not looking at tasks right now, but there's 207 of them. So you have those. We're going to continue to move, and we're going to continue to bring you an implementation plan that is going to get you to where you said you needed to be. And you want to get those 8 goals. We're going to get you there through those objectives that you adopted and through the tasks that we've identified. So with that, is there any questions? Any comments?
Council, have any questions? Thank you for a very thorough report. We appreciate it, and I'm sure that once we read and digest, we'll have questions coming forward,
Please do.
and we'll get in touch with you. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? That was a yes, no? Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. Fisher. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.